Let's be honest about something that most people are too uncomfortable to say out loud. The overwhelming majority of people walking this earth right now will never achieve the level of success they dream about, and the reason why is not what you think it is. It's not because they're not smart enough, not talented enough, or not born into the right family. The brutal truth is that most people fail because of decisions they make every single day, decisions so small and so ordinary that they don't even recognize them as decisions at all. Success is not some mysterious force that randomly blesses certain people and skips others. It follows patterns, it follows behaviors, and more importantly, it follows the kind of thinking that most people are simply never willing to adopt because it requires them to give up something they love more than success itself, and that thing is comfort. The 95 are not lazy in the traditional sense. They go to work, they handle their responsibilities, they show up when they have to. But the moment they're given a choice between what's comfortable and what's necessary for growth, they choose comfort every single time without even realizing they made a choice. Think about how many times you've had an idea, a real one, something that genuinely excited you, and then talked yourself out of it within 48 hours. Not because someone stopped you, not because you lacked resources, but because the fear of failure felt louder than the possibility of success. That right there is the gap between the 95 and the 5. The people in the top 5 are not fearless. That's one of the biggest myths ever sold to the public. They feel the exact same fear, the same self-doubt, the same uncertainty that everyone else feels. The difference is they act anyway, they move anyway, they build anyway, and they let the results answer the questions that fear was asking. Most people are waiting for the perfect moment. They're waiting until they have more money, more time, more confidence, more clarity, more support. But here's what nobody tells you about the perfect moment. It doesn't exist. It has never existed. And every single person who built something real did it in the middle of imperfect circumstances. The 95 spend enormous amounts of energy explaining why they can't. They've built entire belief systems around their limitations, entire identities around why their situation is uniquely difficult. And the tragic part is that these explanations are often very convincing, to themselves and to everyone around them. Successful people spend that same energy figuring out how they can. Not if, not maybe, not someday, how. That single shift in mindset from why I can't to how I can is responsible for more success stories than any strategy, any tool, or any piece of advice ever given. Here's something else the 95 refuse to accept. Speed matters. Not rushing blindly, but urgency. The habit of procrastination is silently stealing years from people's lives, dressing itself up as research, as preparation, as waiting for the right time. Meanwhile, someone somewhere with half your talent and twice your urgency is already 3 steps ahead. Most people overestimate what they can do in a week and catastrophically underestimate what they can do in 5 years of consistent daily effort. The 5 understand this deeply. They're not expecting overnight results. They're playing a longer game, a quieter game. One where they show up even when nobody's watching and even when the results aren't visible yet. Let's talk about environment because this one is ruthless in its impact. You will not outgrow your environment through willpower alone. If everyone around you thinks small, complains constantly, and sees ambition as arrogance, you will eventually start absorbing that worldview no matter how disciplined you think you are. It's not weakness, it's just how human beings work. The 5 are obsessive about who they spend time with. Not in a cold or transactional way, but in a deeply intentional way. They seek out people who are building things, people who challenge their thinking, people who make them feel like their goals are normal rather than crazy. Your circle either pulls you up or pulls you down. It is never neutral. Accountability is another brutal separator between the 95 and the 5. When something goes wrong in a 95 person's life, the first instinct is to find what or who is responsible outside of themselves. The economy, their boss, their upbringing, bad luck, bad timing. And while external factors are real and valid, that mindset removes your power because if the problem is always outside you, then the solution is also always outside you. Taking radical ownership of your life is uncomfortable and it's humbling and it forces you to look at yourself honestly. But it's also the most liberating thing you can do because it means you stop waiting for the world to change and you start changing the only thing you actually have control over, which is yourself. Here is a truth that will make some people angry. Most people are not actually pursuing success, they're pursuing the appearance of success. They want the lifestyle, the recognition, the respect. But they're deeply unwilling to do the invisible work that comes before any of that. The embarrassing early stages, the failure nobody sees, the grind that doesn't look good on social media. The 5 fall in love with the process. They find meaning in the work itself, not just the outcome. And because of that, they can sustain their effort through seasons where nothing is working, through rejection, through setbacks, through the long quiet stretches where progress feels completely invisible. Discipline is not a personality trait that some people are born with. It's a skill, it's a muscle, and it's built through repeated small choices over time. Every time you do what you said you were going to do, even when you don't feel like it, you're building that muscle. Every time you skip it because the mood wasn't right, you're letting it atrophy. The 95 are ruled by their emotions and their moods. They work hard when they feel motivated and they stop when they don't. The 5 have learned to decouple effort from emotion. They've built systems and routines that function regardless of how they feel on any given morning, because they understand that feelings are temporary and results require consistency. Let's talk about learning because this is where the gap becomes almost unfair. Highly successful people are obsessively and continuously learning. They study people who've achieved what they want, they seek out mentors, they analyze their own failures with surgical honesty. Knowledge compounds just like money does, and those who invest in it consistently end up in a completely different category. The 95 stop learning the moment they leave formal education. They get comfortable with what they know, they assume they've figured out enough to get by, and they spend their leisure time consuming entertainment rather than information. 10 years later, they wonder why the world has passed them by and why people younger than them are achieving things they only dreamed about. Sacrifice is another word the 95 have a complicated relationship with, because real success requires giving things up, not forever necessarily, but for long stretches of time. The late nights out, the passive entertainment, the comfort of always saying yes to everything that feels good right now. The 5 make peace with delayed gratification in a way that most people genuinely cannot stomach. They trade short-term comfort for long-term freedom, and they do it willingly, not resentfully, because they have a clear enough vision of where they're going that the sacrifices feel worth it. If you don't have a vision compelling enough to make sacrifice feel worth it, you will always choose the easier path and wonder why your life never changes. One of the most underrated qualities of successful people is their relationship with failure. The 95 treat failure as a verdict, as evidence that they're not good enough, as a reason to stop. The 5 treat it as data, as feedback, as the universe's way of telling them exactly what needs to be adjusted. They fail faster because they're trying more, and they get better faster because every failure teaches them something. The world will never run out of reasons to give up. There will always be a circumstance that justifies quitting, a setback that feels too big, a person who doubts you, a result that doesn't match your effort. The 5 have simply decided in advance that none of those reasons are strong enough. They made the decision once, deeply, and they don't keep revisiting it every time things get hard. Here is the most honest thing I can say to you right now. You already know what you need to do. You don't need more information, more motivation, or more inspiration. You need the courage to actually do it consistently, without guarantee, without applause, and without waiting for everything to feel perfectly ready. The brutal truth about success is that it's completely available to you, more available than it's ever been in human history. And the only thing standing between where you are and where you want to be is a series of daily decisions that most people simply aren't willing to make. The question is whether you're going to be most people.